This is an SM Media production.
Hi, folks, and welcome to the latest episode of our Road to Cheltenham series right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike. It's a pleasure, as always, to be your host, and it's always a pleasure to welcome onto the show from the Scottish Daily Mail, Calum McClurkin.
Hi there, yes, all very exciting. I mean, we managed to get Lingfield on Sunday, so at least we got something out of the weekend, and I think it'll be a lot busier and more informative this week. We've had more kind of entries from Dublin Racing Festival and that, so yeah, and all of a sudden Cheltenham's creeping up on us quite quickly.
Yeah, I think it's 7 weeks until Cheltenham kicks off. It's obviously getting to that stage where we're looking at Dublin Racing Festival, got Trials Day this weekend. It feels like it's the fever's gripping us, but we did have a couple of questions. Now, we're only going to answer two of these because I think they're two excellent ones. They have been answered in other shows, but I thought we would have a go as well. Callum, name a current Cheltenham ante-post favourite who won't go off favourite on the day.
There might be a couple. The one I would say is Grange Clare West and the Brown Advisory. I don't think he'll go off favourite. I think more likely Factifile will. I think maybe a couple of Brits will maybe sling their hat in the ring as well. I think he's got to kind of really back that up, that performance. I think the race kind of maybe fell apart a little bit for him as well. So yeah, I don't think he'll go off favourite on the day.
I think Grange Clare West would probably be the one for me. The other one I was kind of thinking towards would probably be Embassy Gardens in the National Hunt Chase. Again, it all depends on what Patrick Mullins decides to ride, but I just think there might be, it might be too early to say Embassy Gardens is the number one. I think we've got a few different ones we can think of, but in terms, I mean, Stay Away Faye could go into open company, put in a serious performance and be favourite himself. Fact to File could do it at Leopardstown. So I think Grange Clare West is probably the one I would be against at the moment. In terms of the next question, this is a really interesting one to get answered on up in the ante. I think who would win? Who would have won the Supreme Ballymore and Albert Bartlett if the last 10 winners all raced against one another? Now, I'm understanding this question, Callum, is at their point in the Supreme, if they all race together from that race, who would win? Let's go Supreme. We'll both give an answer for Supreme, then Ballymore, then Albert Bartlett. You go first with the Supreme.
Pretty easy for me. It would be Constitution Hill.
Easily.
I know there's quite a good kind of couple of Rich Ritchie ones towards the end there. You've got Altiors and Shishkins of the world. I think Constitution Hill probably borderline unstoppable that day. Don't think he's had to put many numbers as well up in open company. Yeah, whatever you do, and a strongly run Supreme as well. It's usually, and it would be with all 10 of those running. I think you just win and pick them up quite easily. So Constitution Hill his 2022 Supreme win.
Yeah, probably Constitution Hill. I'd give a mention to Duvan. I'd like to see if Duvan. I think Duvan would have been a close second. You've got Vitour as well, Tristan. There's so many good ones in there. I think that was probably the easiest because of Constitution Hill. Ballymore, I think, is a bit harder. I'm torn between two. I think I would have loved to have seen Faugheen and Bob Ollinger. I think they're the two that come to mind immediately. Any others in there?
Yes, they were the two that I thought of. Preference would be Bob Ollinger. Again, I just thought that effort was borderline unstoppable. When we watched Faheen back, he made a big mistake 3 out. Wouldn't have got away with that against Bob Ollinger for me. If you mirror those runs, Bob Ollinger, smooth travelling, in behind, a proper renewal with Gallard and O'Neill and Brave Man's Game, who are very well touted horses at the time with strong form, blitzing by about 4 lengths. Yeah, the career trajectories have been a bit different, but this is on the day, and I think Bob Ollinger probably the best Ballymore win in the last decade for me.
Yeah, I would say Bob Bollinger would come to mind for that. Albert Bartlett, I thought was horrendous to pick. There's a lot of, again, an Albert Bartlett one. It's very different to Supreme and Ballymore. You need to have a bit more in terms of kind of more than kind of toe and things like that. But the two that came to mind for me were both Willie Mullins horses, and they both looked to have class on the day. Monkfish and the Nice Guy.
Oh, neither for me.
Really?
Penn Hill.
Okay.
2017. No 16-1 shot, but again, from the back, picked up effortlessly, won. I know he was hard to keep sound, then won a stairs hurdle. He was a very, very classy horse.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was classier than the Nice Guy. I think he was classier than Monkfish. I think he would have won the Battle of the Clans there in 2017 for me. I thought he was very, very good. It was kind of the horse that kind of put Paul Townend in the map as well,
Yeah.
with a very creeping, waiting ride. Yeah, it would be Constitution Hill 2022 Supreme, Bob Olinger 2021, Ballymore, Penhill 2017, Albert Bartlett. But yeah, the Albert Bartlett is the toughest because I think the rating wise, it's a lot more compressed. I think Penhill had a touch of class that would beat them all, which
Yeah,
would be
I think
above, which would be above the kind of normal rating you get for an Albert Bartlett.
yeah, I can see that. I did have him on my list, but I thought the way Monkfish, to consider
Monkfish only won by a neck as well,
who he
and
beat
a really
though.
strong renewal. But I wouldn't kind of put, the likes of like Time Hill in there, like beating horses. And I think if Ginto didn't break down, he would probably force a Nice Guy to put, a lot of stops in there. Well, Penhill, he'd be a decent field. I know he's a big price, but he won quite well with authority, and he was a proper Mullins kind of 3 mile hurdle. When at the time we didn't have many.
Yeah, no, I think I would say I think a lot of Albert Bartlett winners don't get the credit they deserve because they sometimes very rarely go on to better it. But Ben Hill obviously went and won a stairs hurdle. Monkfish won a Brown Advisory. The Nice Guy, I think injuries have kind of destroyed him. But yeah, I mean that was a bit of fun. We'll do that maybe next week with novice chases. I think I actually quite like that. We'll move into not a busy but informative recap for the week. Right, Callum, Saturday was a bit of a washout in the UK, but we did have a couple of Irish horses. We'll start with a novice hurdle. My Trump Card beat Dr. Eggman. What did you think of this? I really think this could be quite informative. Maybe I think Dr. Eggman could be a Martin Pipe contender. I'm not sure My Trump Card's going to make the step up into Grade 1 company, though.
Well, the plan is to go straight to the Bartlett, maybe put cheap pieces on to kind of sharpen him up a little bit. He does need a bit of work. Maybe he screams chaser to me, doesn't he? The winner.
Yeah.
I think he's probably won for next season. He's been in bumpers for quite some time, so yeah, maybe just gonna get the Hurdles campaign kind of out the way for the end of the season, and then you might see a kind of better reformed character going chasing. It was a decent performance. They're two kind of fairly well hyped up horses, back from their bumper days, and they've got reasonable kind of profiles with lofty connections. I think there's future there for both. I'm not convinced it's this season we'll see the best of them.
Have you noticed, and we'll get to one later on, but have you noticed that a lot of Willie Mullins' novices don't seem to jump right?
Yes, I pointed that out last week. A lot of them aren't jumping well, which is a bit bizarre. I wouldn't. There's just quite a lot of them. Even they're even at the top of the markets in some of them as well. Hence their ability, which is equally, it's concerning and frightening in both kind of manners, because there's bundles of improvement still there, and they're still good enough to overcome it. But Cloughton winning a championship race has got to be a negative.
100%. We'll move to State Navan. Manela Kakuna returned, made a winning. My first win over fences. Obviously, was third behind the Factor File, second in that Albert Bartlett 2 years ago against the Nice Guy. Won this by 2.5 lengths. Looked as if he needed every yard of it. What do you think here? 33-1 for Brown Advisory. You've got quotes about 10-1 for National Hunt Chase. Looks a stare to me, but I'm not sure Cheltenham will be where he'll go.
Yeah, I mean, he's another one that's just in the mix for the National Hunt Chase, isn't he? I mean, you're kind of horses too fortunate which one Patrick Mullins, might pick with between him, maybe Embassy Gardens and Nick Rocket seem to be the top outstanding three. Meeting of the Waters as well would be a fourth that you'd put in there. This was his best performance to date. I thought he lacked a bit of scope to go over a fence. I thought that was a good jumping performance. Sadar Stair, he obviously improved for the run behind Factor File the last day because he had such a long layoff. Again, he's one that you've got to kind of be mindful of keeping sound, and is spring ground going to be really his bag? And and all sorts of things. Yeah, maybe he's not quite a spring horse, but that was a good performance. It confirmed his class, and I think he's well in the mix for National Hunt Chase, and off the back of that.
Lingfield on Sunday, two to mention. We'll start with the Lightning Novices Chase. JPR1 finally was able to jump the last, won this. Again, probably an each-way contender in the Arkle at best, but very, very, you can tell he's obviously got ability. Maybe the kind of good comparison is Edward Stone 2 years ago. He's probably at that level in terms of where he is now, but I just think there'll be a few better than him come March.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was the best British 2 mile novice chase around this season, and he travelled into it as the classiest operator by some way. Hit the front a bit too soon, idle a little bit, still won. This was a big confidence booster for him. Joe Tizard went instead straight away Arkle. Do you remember when Eldorado Allen was second to Shishkin in an Arkle 1 year? He could do the same when to a Marine Nationale, because he's 9-1 on Paddy Power and Betfair without Marine Nationale in the field. I think that is the best bet in the race by some way. Considering that he's like 16s, 20s outright, Marine Nationale is the outstanding horse in the race. You can take him out of the equation. You don't need to back one of Willie Mullins' 4 or 5 or Found the 50 who jumps way out to his right. You'd be concerned about that. Mullins has still got to establish a pecking order, which probably happened in Irish Arkle, but I mean, you're taking one of those 4 or 5, your Mr. Policeman's, your Facile Vegas, your Blood Destinies, your L.A.T. Thompson, Hunter's Yarns of the world. You have to take 9-10-1 with Marine Nationale in the field for them, and they're not guaranteed to turn up, and you'll have to split them. This guy's going straight there. He's the best British contender out the lot. He'll like a strongly run race. He'll get a lead. And he'll look better for it. He acts around Cheltenham barring a mishap. It's a good confidence builder. He's showing a bit of class. You'd get 9-1 each way, 3 places without the favourite. That's the bet of the race by a big, big margin.
Yeah,
I think he's the best British candidate, and I think he's an each way player in behind Marine Nationale.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think he's shown enough to say that he will be that, and 9-1's quite a big price. We'll move on to the Fleur de Lis. It was won by Presse, beat Protectorat 2.5 lengths. Again, this is obviously a good comeback for Presse. Protectorat, I think, run quite a good race. In terms of this race towards the Gold Cup, is Presse the best of the British?
Again, he's definitely up there as a contender now. I mean, Lingfield, it's a big prize money. A lot of horses will be at their peak to go there. I think this was Protected that season. He's ran okay. I thought he might win that and do Long Press. I just think he got maybe brought stamina into the equation a bit too much and went a little bit too soon. But I mean, I suppose trying to get a horse that's been out for quite some time, since the King George last season, trying to do him for fitness isn't the worst kind of idea in the world. So you couldn't really grumble too much about the ride. I think they kind of left themselves vulnerable to him closing. He hit a flat spot, stayed on, suggested there was a lot more to come. Venetia Williams can map one out from a long way out to run well fresh, so there might not be as much improvement as you think. The problem with all of them is it's just a run below Galloping Deschamps form. Everyone else is banking on him to kind of run a bit below par to give them a chance. Mm-hmm. He's priced in alongside the Jerry Colombs of the world. I think that's just about right.
Right, we'll move into Thurles, a few to mention. We'll start with Allaho, won by 13 lengths, beating Statler. Appreciate it was in there, Rolswood French Dynamite. If you looked at Twitter on Sunday at 150, you would have thought this was the best performance you'd ever seen. Watching it back, I spoke to you about it before we come on. It was a good prep for Cheltenham, but I don't think he's put levels ahead of everything in the Ryanair field with that.
No, it's very inconclusive, isn't it? He gets a. It's a grade 2 that could be running Willie Mullins' backyard, really. It's a piece of work. His only main rival was Appreciate It, who was bizarrely held up, even though he's been forward ridden and ran okay and hire company beforehand. This was a fact-finding mission of getting maybe Allaho on track. He's done it well enough, but he backed off a couple. The time is very slow in comparison to the mares chase, which are top-level mares, Harmonia Maker and stuff. He's carrying a bit more weight, but it was like 5-6 seconds slower than that. It's nowhere near his peak form, and he hasn't had to be. And therefore, and he set the line, reasonably well. But I think it's going to be miles tougher than that. He couldn't dominate the King George. It's kind of on Stammer grounds. I'm not convinced that was fully the case. Thurles is a bit of a kind of quirky track for him. It's not ideal prep, you would have to say. So, in terms of track, the Ryanair Cheltenham new course that might seem in better effect. But the Ryanair's it's going to be a lot tougher and it's going to be a lot harder to dominate as well. He's 10. He could well be back, but he's not put in a performance within £10 of his peak efforts this season for me.
Yeah, I think you can compare him to the year he won. Obviously, he had that bad run in the John Durkan, but he came back in that race 2 years ago and looked really good. And you thought, right, if he could run for the front and things like that. I just think there's a few, like Banbridge, for example, if the ground's good, I think Banbridge would give him a serious race. Stage Star, I wouldn't rule out. There's a few in there. I just think if it was a year where he's like the year he won it, the second year where it was really nothing to beat, I don't think he's going to get it all his own way this year. I think it's a good prep. You can tell he's obviously still got the ability, he can still jump, but did you want to see more? If he'd won the King George, I think we'd all be saying, yeah, he's back to his best, but he hasn't. He hasn't won the King George. He's been outstaying the King George. I just worry that he's maybe past his best and something brighter comes along.
I would say so. I would have Banbridge over him if the ground's right. I mean, even if you don't like Stage Star, he's bombed out and get a bit to prove. He's a front-running horse.
Yeah,
there's absolutely no way that he's going to allow Allaho to kind of dominate from the off. Yeah, I mean, I thought the King George, he was the classiest horse in the race, and he travelled into it, quite well enough, and then kind of flattened out a little bit, and maybe hit the front too soon. But Shishkin had him, well beat. Brief Schemes come back to beat him as well. Maybe Paul Townend was sensibly kind on when his chance had gone. He's very good at doing that. But I mean, Statler was upsides, and Statler's like a 4 miler, really, isn't he? I mean, they were talking about Hunter chases for Statler at the start of the season. That's how level is. Appreciate it was never put in the race. French Dynamite hated the ground. That was it. Envoy Alan Fildor would have been interesting rivals, but they were taken out. I think it proves almost next to nothing. You wouldn't rule him out being back, but 9-4, there's no appeal there.
High Class Hero won the novice hurdle over 2 mile 6. Again, similar to a few Willie Mullins horses, didn't jump great. I thought looking at it, he would improve for the run. I do think a Bartlett will suit him. I was expecting more. I thought he would win it but more than he did. But overall, I'm fairly happy. Hasn't really moved much in price. Fairly happy. As I say, I think I would have liked to have seen more. But in terms of what he's beaten, he hasn't beaten a lot. He's done it well enough.
He's beaten a 130 rated rival. They've gone slow, which wouldn't have suited them. They all seem to be going across Ireland these days now. Sensible pace. He's beat a 130 rated rival fairly comfortably. He's had to get down and dirty just to kind of keep him out his work and quicken a little bit. And he's done it well. I don't think the ground was that favourable for him. When you get horses out earlier, maybe they seek a bit better ground early in the season. It's a nice unbeaten profile. There are plenty of lurkers in that field, and he has been cut. I mean, you were quite right in like pointing that it's a weak race and he'll be cut because he's Willie Mullins, and even if he doesn't win impressively, which he didn't, he's still been cut a corner. I mean, there's about 8s, too short for me. I think there's others that are quite interesting in the race, but you've definitely got a nice price and ticket, and he's just about sets the standard. But you'd expect others, maybe even in Britain this week, maybe even Dublin Racing Festival, that will probably come in with maybe a bit better form. But I think a Bartlett will suit him. Strongly run race. Maybe taking a lead, bigger field. You can see that suiting him. He's not got a great deal in hand in comparison to what the market would tell you. And there's plenty of interesting alternatives.
Yep. We have a favourite for the Hunters Chase. It is the David Christie horse Ferns Lock, won by 8 lengths at Thurles on Sunday. I don't know if you watched this, but he couldn't have won this any easier. But the worry I've got with David Christie horses is I've been burned before.
They don't win, do they, Cheltenham? He's another that looks the full package, probably is. He's a bit buzzy. Does he get up the hill? I'm not sure. I would have it on the line over him at Cheltenham.
Yeah, I just don't. It was good enough. As I say, Vossile last year, I thought Vossile was absolute nailed on to win last year and didn't really go at all when you knew straight away your card was marked. I will leave him alone for the time being. But that race could, as you say, it could come up to. There's some old classics in there. Sam Crow could potentially come in. As you say, Winged Leader. There's that again could be interesting, but that's probably one for later on. Wednesday, Mirror West finally got off the mark over hurdles. Again, very, very messy in terms of his jumping. Didn't really beat a lot, as I say, beat a Dermot McLaughlin horse by 11 lengths, who, again, isn't really good form, but he can win. That's the thing. He's obviously still, you've got 14 16s for the Supreme. I do think we'll go there. He's probably an each-way player. I just think his jumping would get found out at Cheltenham for me.
Yeah, it wouldn't be for me at all. The Supreme jumping's deplorable. This race was also marred form-wise for the loss of DB Cooper, who
that as well. Yeah.
Broke down, unfortunately. Which, I mean, if you beat him, there might have been a bit of substance to it. It's an improvement, but it's not vast improvement from first run to second, and he's just far too raw for me to consider in a Supreme.
Right, that was our recap for the week. Let's move on to a special novice hurdle preview. Right, Calum, we're going to do something special for the next few weeks. We're going to kind of put some races together and do some wee kind of mini previews on them. We'll start with the novice hurdle. So the Supreme Ballymore, Mares Novice. We'll do the Triumph and the Albert Bartlett. So Tuesday, the opening race. We'll start with the Supreme. Just go through the market briefly. Mystical Power 4-1. Jericho de Repine 9-2. Ballyburn's in there at 7-1. You've got a few Elliott horses. Caldwell Potter, Far and Glory. Firefox at 12. No Flies on him. Mirror West. It's a very open Supreme, obviously. 4-1 the field. You would take that on the day. I don't think you will. I don't think it will. Though we could get some clues at the weekend. Where are you at with this race?
It's a mind bender, isn't it? For I mean, it smacks like a Shishkin year, isn't it? Where it's going to be open. I do think you'll probably get 4-1 the field on the day. It's a market full of potential at the top of the market. Mystical Power, Jericho de Repine, Ballyburn. Probably the three you'd look at. Ballyburn could obviously go Ballymore, so we need to be mindful of that. Non-runnable bet consideration. Mystical Power's kind of done it. His jumping leaves a lot to be desired. He was also meant to go 2.5 mile for the initial Laurels and Ace. He's been rerouted to the Moscow Flyer. He's won that pretty weak race very well, despite jumping pretty badly. Jericho de Repine's done less form-wise, but he's looked the part. But that is all in looks. The form's again kind of yet to be kind of tested. He probably has the most untapped potential in the field. It's not quite priced in though yet, is it? I mean, he's the one I'd be tempted the most. If there was a horse that would win this by 6 to 8 lengths, you'd probably circle him.
Yeah.
Because I think Mystical Power's more likely to make mistakes, things like that. Far and Glory, Caldwell Potter, Firefox, the Elliott Battalion. You know, they bring interest to a certain degree. The problem is Firefox is coming straight here, and the last 10 winners of the Supreme have all come back on some sort of victory at some level. We don't want to come in and be bombed out like that. I mean, Facile Vega did quite well to get as close as he did doing it that year, but I mean, history is firmly against you in Supremes if you've not won last time out. I'd be kind of generally mindful of that. Caldwell Potter, Fallon Glory probably come into the equation and really soft ground. Somerville Boys stuff probably to get into it. I do like Colwell Potter's resolution, but even after he won Christmas, Elliott was quite quick to kind of downplay his ability. Far and Glory, the Royal Bond, he was going to win at Aintree, wasn't he, as well? Another Grade 1 before falling. He might be better than the form kind of initially maybe suggested. Looks kind of solid type, but again, you'd have to see him again after coming out a fall like that. And then there's the sleepers of the world. Atlantique could drop back and trip. You've got, I think Django Bay's been probably criminally underrated in the Henderson Brigade. Wilmount as well. Daddy Longlegs. These type of horses could come back. With a decent showing or a win, and they're not out of the equation on form book either. It's full of interesting unexposed types. If you're pressing me at the top of the market, mainly because out of potential, it might be Jericho de Repine, but at the moment, it's basically because it feels like it might be Henderson here, and I wouldn't want to take a risk in any of the Mullins lot. If I was, I would still side with Daddy Longlegs at a price. I think he's better than what he showed at Christmas, and I think there was valid ground excuses on the day, and he's still been campaigned as a very good horse. He's going to Double Racing Festival, and there's about a 12-1 chance for that. So I mean that is going to probably, like the novice chasing thing, it's probably going to set the agenda and set its pecking order for Cheltenham and Willie Mullins. So I think everyone's kind of on Mullins' watch for that.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of where we're at. I think it's a really tough race to call. I do agree with you. I think Jericho de Repine is the most potential in terms of maybe something like Far and Glory. If it comes up a kind of good to soft, and there's the word soft, you would give him another chance. Obviously, I do think he would have went close in the Tolworth at Aintree. So I would probably say right now Jericho de Repine would probably be the one I would look at the top, and maybe a Sabre and Far and Glory. Ballymore, Ballyburn leads the market there 72. You've got Mystical Power, Gidley Park, an interesting runner for Harry Fry. We might get a clue in him this weekend as well. You've got the likes of Atlantique, Slate Steel in there, Predators Gold, Captain Teague, obviously the Charlo winner. Ballyburn leads the market here now. With the fact that they're even considering going the 2 mile route, I still think they might be leaning towards Supreme. But I mean, they've done it before with Sir Gerhard. They went to the 2 mile route. They've split them. I would say Ballyburn, just looking at him, looks to me to be a Ballymore horse.
He could be either. He really could be either. And I think there's been a bit of a move for him to go to Supreme, isn't there? Late, a little bit, but if he wins this 2 mile race, it's hard to see him going elsewhere because Willie Mullins doesn't have an obvious Mystical Power who could go up and trip. You wouldn't be surprised if Mystical Power went Ballymore and Ballyburn went Supreme. It's now the Bingham, isn't it? This race now as well.
Yeah, they've changed the name. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that'll catch on, but I think Willie Mullins has more 2.5 mile options than he does clear cut wise than 2 miles, and maybe it's just identifying his best novice, which I think might well be Ballyburn. It's just identifying which race. At the start of the season, you think, yeah, probably 2.5 miles all day, actually showing a bit more pace here. He could go Supreme. Nothing else is coming out the woodwork, and Mystical Power does. The thing is for the 2 miler than this. Do you put Mystical Power in here? And Ballyburn goes Supreme. I think that might happen. Ballyburn still go out do it in graded company. He's won a maiden, a very good one, but and a very good second. But that is his level of form. Reading Tommy wrong. Not a lot of people talk about him. It's as if the Lords of the East was a bit of a fluke. There was late money for him. He did it well. People assume that he might go Albert Bartlett route. The trainer was pretty bullish about going this way with him. Same connections as Perry Pass, same ownership. Not saying he's in that league, but top price 15-2 each way, rocking up here. There's a lot more to come. It's the best form and offer. I think people are maybe queuing up to kind of knock him a bit because it was a bit of a shock, but might not be, and he's unwise to overlook. The Irish form though has been muddling generally, and that's what's brought Gidley Park into the equation. Now he's in a good race this weekend. you'd argue Evans is a bit too short from on bare form in that, but he does have potential, and he does have that kind of Harry Fry kind of positive profile where, yeah, he could be a British novice that can make the grade come Cheltenham time.
Do you remember the last British horse to win the Ballymore?
Was it Willoughby Court or something
It
like that?
was, yeah.
Yeah, I backed him that day, and he chinned the Neon Wolf, who's
Yep, Harry Fry.
Harry Fry's horse, the kind of leading novice. So yeah, and he's done it with, I mean, Harry won a Bartlett. So yeah, he's worth plenty of respect. You've got Atlantique. He's another one. Tripwise, he can debate all day long.
Mm-hmm.
He has this kind of sequence of twos a little bit, which some people imply that he's a bit soft in the finish. I don't quite subscribe to that theory yet. I think you need kind of more evidence to kind of see that. Gornellic is saying one here, and Slade Steele is interesting because I think he's a lot better than Antubber. And I think he's Henry de Bromhead's kind of main contender. He's got some decent bumper form. He wasn't never going to be a bumper horse. He's won /2 fairly well. You're kind of waiting for him to kind of take the next step up. He could shape like In the Pocket did in the Double Racing Festival last year, and hopefully make the right decision going 2.5 miles instead of 2 miles. And he doesn't run that above himself that they're tempted to run Supreme because it's a bit weaker in the ground. Kind of persuade them to go in the pocket weight 2 miles. I think he would be more interested at 2.5, and I think this guy's pretty similar. So he's a player, and each way, I think he'd be the way I'd be going. Slade Steele at this point. I think 12, 14 to 1 is about fair. Gidley Park, yes, but he's a bit short now. And other people have tipped him up at kind of the 14 to 1 bracket where I think he would be interesting, but 10s is a bit skinny. So I would side in the Slade Steele camp.
Mayor's Novice Hurdle on the Thursday. Brighter Days Ahead and Dysart Enos both share favouritism at 7-2. Jade de Gruge, she runs in the Sol Arena on Saturday. The likes of Fun. Aurora Vega's in there. Jatara obviously won the open race. Tiger Bay Queen, not a word on her, so I'm just kind of skipping her over now. I don't think we'll see her now. I think she could be one for next year. This is tougher. We've obviously seen some decent performances. I really like Dysart Enos. I'd kind of had on my radar for this after Aintree. 7-2, I think, is fairly short. Brighter Days Ahead's done it well. Jade de Gruge could go into that bracket if she wins on Saturday. This is quite an open Mayor's Novice, and we've not said that very often.
Yeah, and it's dominated by the top three. We haven't seen a lot, though, of them. So maybe something could come from nowhere in this and shake it up a little bit. Jade de Gruge going the Sol Arena route. Looks well fancied. It's a honeysuckle way of doing things. It's Tell Me Something Girl way of doing things. It's Manila Melodies of the world. It's Kenny Alexander kind of way of. You can see why people have nibbled away at 10s and 8s and now into 7s. So you still get to go and do it. The Mullins factor in comparison to 2 British horses, you'd be thinking, yeah, you'd think that she might. You wouldn't be surprised if she did something that would, make her joint favourite with Dysart Enos, who could run this week as well at Doncaster. She's had a very softy kind of thing, so you won't be penalised. Virgil O'Brien craving a first festival win, and I think she's the right favourite. I think she's got, she's got a bit of form in between with the boys. Yeah, and she travels as if she is very, very classy. And there's no doubt she is, and the engine's there, and the way they've handled her is very good. The thing is, though, that numbers wise, it's probably not enough to be 7-2 favourite just because of the company she's been keeping into this. But there is an abundance of untapped potential as she jumps very cleanly. Trip, ground, tactics. I don't think much would concern you about her. And I think she's got a kind of really good, solid resolution about her, and that can do you justice. Brighter Days Ahead, again, is a similar type, probably more of a stayer down the line. Gornelli gave her an entry in the Mayor's Hurdle, which is probably significant in terms of ability, but might be significant trip-wise, 2.5, 2 miles. Her best work's at the finish. Will she be outspeeded at some point in that race? You do need to stay in a race like that. I mean, Alka do to be plugging away at the top end.
Did you see she's been retired as well?
Yes, yeah. I mean, valuable mares, rightfully so, retiring. If there's an injury, no point racing them. You might as well, put them in your crop and then solidify the game. I mean, that's why we're kind of like foals of Annie Power and Honeysuckle's having a foal this week, I think.
Yeah.
So this is where you kind of want the mares program to now kind of shine, and maybe you breed better quality racehorses as a result of it, and maybe more robust ones because we're having better mares. So it should strengthen the program a little bit. So hopefully that'll work. As for brighter days ahead, yeah, if it turns into a grind, she might be the one people would want to side with the most. So it's down to those top three. It's a bit of a bun fight. You just kind of I think you'd take a back seat and watch them and see how they develop. For me, Dicertinus is a player. I think Queen's Gamble's a bit of a player each way, even though she jumps a little bit to her right, which would concern me a bit. So out with the top three, I would give her a positive mention as well.
Yeah, I think I really like Dicertinus's profile. Again, I find it really hard to split the top three. Want to see if Tiger Bay Queen was maybe to come in, get a run maybe early, then we'll see what happens. But I just worry I might have another play in this race kind of later on once I dive deep into it. Let's move on to Friday too to talk about. We've got a Triumph Hurdle. We've obviously going to have really interesting clues over the next couple of weekends. Burdett Road and Sergino will meet on Saturday in the Triumph Trial. We'll talk about that later on. But Burdett, they obviously lead the market. Stormheart and Bunting for Willie Mullins, 791. You've got Nürburgring, Salvador Monday, Silver, Cargill, Geese, High Wind. There's a lot of nice horses in here. What do you think's the best? What's the best juvenile performance you've seen this season?
That is Burdett Road. Just over the Grade 2 form in Ireland with Calaconte, Nürburgring, Kyrgyzstan. I think that's the form you'd be looking at. The thing is, I mean, Burdett Road, he can thump one. He is a kind of proper rock or a Triumph Force, but the way he went up the hill didn't stop him. He even quickened up it. Time back that up. There could be a lot more to come. Coming here seems sensible enough. He's missed a couple engagement due to ground and things like that. He's going to take a very good rival on in Sergino, who again is quite learning the job. He doesn't strike to me as a Triumph Hurdle horse, though. And not because there's a future in him, mainly over fences. I would say he seems to be the one that. He seems the one, regardless what he does as a 4-year-old. I think you would be kind of taking him forward quite often. I think he's got a lot of raw ability, but he does strike to me as a kind of big chaser down the line. He's also 2 Windops, his name, which for a 4-year-old is it's a bit funny. But when they win in France, you've got to go early, and that's what they're doing here. So they're both full of talent in different ways. Burdett Road is kind of your old-fashioned kind of back flat form, can't jump, but Wiley ability wise is unbelievable, and you can see that, and he's a Royal Ascot winner. So the back class involved there. It's just whether he can put it all together in the jumping department to do himself proper justice, and even if he doesn't, it might still be enough. So tons of respect there. Sergino seems to be kind of more of an old-fashioned kind of National Hunt type, but he's still a player. He could step up and take him on, and I'd expect him to maybe kind of forwardly run and maybe try and pressure Burdett Road's jumping the weekend and maybe try to expose a weakness there. Stormheart, like the full package in debut for Willie Mullins, jumped relatively well. Still gave the impression more to come. Bunting was one that was highlighted at the start of the season. He was at the front of the market at the start of the season. I quite like him. He's a dual purpose type. He reminds me of it. Not quite that level, maybe. He's a bit kind of a soft ground kind of Vauban type for me. He was running around all over the place, green as anything at Limerick, which is a kind of stiff test. He absolutely powered up the hill. I know it was an ordinary race, but I thought there was bundles to take from that. I thought there was obvious massive improvement to come next start. He's going in a spring juvenile as well. Salvador Monday. He's got French form tied in with Sergino. You're going to see him pretty soon. Salvia won at Chepstow, bottomless ground for Gary Moore, who tends to have one or two very good juveniles. He seems to be one as well. Olympic Cheltenham class is up for debate. High Wind did a very good debut, which Ruby Walsh is pointing out that he's kind of the value one as well. So, and Calaconte, Nürburgring, and Kilgasey. Yeah, it was an open race, but it's a race that's churned out trying for the winners left, right, and centre in the past. And Nürburgring's going straight there. Calaconte might take in Double Racing Festival. I think she's a very clean, efficient jumper. She settles really well. Yeah, she got the run of the race last time. She showed a ton of foot, and that's what won her it. A very good ride as well. She's very streetwise enough, and she'll get weight on the day as well. She can stay, she can tough it out. I think she's far too big, and I think she's underestimated in the market because those in behind were slightly unlucky in a stiffer track. Stronger piece might suit, but I wouldn't be underestimating the winner either. I think 16 still underestimates her.
Yeah, would say she's a good player in the race. Obviously, we'll see what happens. Obviously, we'll get two big trials. We'll preview the Triumph trial in the next part of the show. Final race, Albert Bartlett. We've kind of touched on this. Obviously, high class hero 13-2, reading Tommy wrong 7-1. You've got Captain Teague, Lecky Watson, Loftglen, My Trump Card, Predators Gold, Shanna Bob. There's a lot of old doer fashion stairs in here, and I think we're in for an old-fashioned old Albert Bartlett.
Yeah, I think you can see many runners here as well. I personally, I'm still quite interested in Croke Park. There was excuses he was lame. He's going straight to the Bartlett. You're going to get a run. If you're inclined to forgive it, and a lot of horses can bounce back in a race like that. 20s for a Gigginstown Elliott horse that stays all day and has been nominated for Group 1s. Is a bit big. I think he still might be the number one contender as well at the end of the day. Lecky Watson wouldn't be from me, top of the market. I think he'll fool you more often than not. He might find ways to get beat. He's just, I think, a rung underneath. Loughlin can go out and prove himself, but he needs to. Vessel in form. Being Tommy Wrong might go Ballymore. High class hero sets a standard, nice unbeaten profile. But he's not that far clear. He's also a 7-year-old. Suggests that and he might have had setbacks beforehand. We've been seeing him. He's seen quite late on the scene. But he's a nice unbeaten profile. That's what naturally attracts Captain Teague and Shanna Bob, Johnny Who as well. 3 British contenders that I think are quite interesting. Shanna Bob had to put it all together. I didn't quite like him at Cheltenham, but he somehow got it done. He looked beat 10 times over. He looked capable of coming on a ton for that. Nicky Henderson wouldn't have many kind of Bartlett types in the past, but he's had quite a few classy ones that have ran well, and he's had quite a few that have ran the wrong race. In the Ballymore, for instance, champs and things like that. So, he's an interesting each-way player. So is Captain Teague, because eventually Paul Nicholls has now seen the light. The Chal is not really a Ballymore trial because they're all too slow, but it's certainly an Albert Bartlett one now. And he looked pretty good the further he went trip, the better he was. He was bone idle up top last day, and when he get a bit of company, readily pulled out more. You can see him doing what Stay Away Fee did last year quite easily. And Johnny Who had a very good profile coming in this for John Joe Neal, GP McManus, before struggling the last day, but it wouldn't be the first time a John Joe Neal horse goes missing in the winter and comes back in spring and fulfills his potential. So, I mean, they are. I would be looking at those 4 each way: Captain Teague, Johnny Who, Shanna Bob, and Croke Park. I think the Mullins horses could go elsewhere and they're a bit too short.
Right, let's move into talking about what is coming up this weekend. Right, Callum, we've got trials day at Cheltenham. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got interesting races all over Cheltenham this week. We'll start with the Triumph Trial Juvenile Hurdle. Burdett Road versus Sergino. Burdett Road even money. Sergino 11-8. I obviously sit in the Sergino camp and hopefully can beat Burdett Road. But that's what we want. We want to see the two at the top of the market taking on each other before Cheltenham. It gives us a clue as to where to go in March.
Yeah, at the track as well, which is quite something. Yeah, I mean, it could go either way, couldn't it? I mean, I think Sergino will probably try and make it a bit of a test at stamina and maybe try and expose holes in Burdett Road's jumping. It's just how much has Burdett Road improved in the jumping department from the first day? Because if it's normal improvement, I think he'd be very hard to beat here. I think Sergino's more of a kind of a long-term plan of a horse, and I think they're kind of obliged around him here because of his French days. I think he might be one for the futures. I would marginally lean with Burdett Road, but I mean it's not a race I want to kind of dive in. It's kind of one of these very informative ones that you can sit back and enjoy actually.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this race. I think it's a good way to start off. We'll go to the 1:15. We've got the Paddy Power Cheltenham Countdown handicap chase, obviously a premier handicap. Alredoto leads the market 4-1. Exalo for Nicky Henderson. You've got Victorino for Venetia Williams. Hitman's in there. Where do you find where are you kind of looking towards here? I quite like Bill Baxter at 11-1. I think he might have a decent each way profile for this.
Yeah, just wonder if the trip's a little bit sharp for him. He's normally kind of a bit of a 3-miler. I like Victorino. I think there's untapped potential there. 146 isn't beyond him yet. This track's a little bit different, but I think he's unexposed enough. What Excels did, in his 5, he won a novice by kind of surprise really for Nick Henderson. Now he's a 146. He's a handicapper. Alredoto's got up for getting beat last time, but it was a really strong race. He's not the most straightforward in the world. So therefore, taking that price, I would marginally side with Victorino. Hitman's got plenty to prove to come back. Toy's got a decent profile as well. But I think if he handles the track, I think Victorino would be the one that I would be siding with.
On to the Cotswold Chase. Royal Pagaille, Stay Away Faye, obviously making a step to open coming. You've got a Grade 1 winner in the Betfair Chase. You've got an up-and-coming novice, real whackers in there. Capodanno, Ahoy Senor, that's all right, Gino. This is a really exciting race. Where do you lean?
Plenty of pace in this as well. Stay Away Faye makes it really interesting. Just seeing a novice go to open company in a race is just terrific. I would love to see more of it. So I applaud that. But he's rated 150 here. He's not getting any weight. He's got a bit to find. Even if you do like him, he's too short here. Royal Pagaille. This isn't Haydock. He's 10. He's had a setback. I know Venetia Williams can map one out really well. The ground might be a bit quick for him. There is pace and top though. It might tee up for him nicely, and he has the class acting here. But he is into getting on a little bit territory now. I might roll the dice with Real Whacker. I didn't think Kempton's a big ask after being struck into the handicap. This is his course and distance. He missed the start at Kempton, which kind of did him in a little bit. He ran okay in 4th. Patrick Neville, I think the yard had been gone largely missing all year. There's a bit of form now. He could all of a sudden pop up here. This race, Ahoy Senor kind of popped up with not showing much last year until there. I think the Real Whacker could do the same. He's a sound jumper. I think this is more his bag, and I think he's a decent enough price now at 9-2.
On to the Clarence House Chase. John Bond obviously leads the market 1-3. We're not getting El Fabiolo, which is again disappointing, but it is what it is. John Bond 1-3, editor to Jeet, last year's winner. It's obviously been rerun at Cheltenham. This is John Bond. John Bond should win this. And again, the fact that it's at Cheltenham makes me kind of lean towards John Bond even more, even if El Fabiolo wasn't.
Yeah, Ascot kind of tried to call it off as early as possible to attract El Fabiolo here, like they did with Energamine last year, and it didn't quite work out. John Bond should win this. He's 8 clear, and Editor de Geet, who's largely gone missing this season, but he did come back and won the last day in handicap company off top weight, so he might make a race of it. He's obviously the forecast threat as well. I would like to see Nubi Negra show a bit more spark. If the ground dries out for him, he really should be beating Elixir de Nuts and Fugitive, who's probably a 2.5 miler really at his best, isn't he? But he's up to 157, so they might as well try their hand at something like this. John Bond for me. He keeps plundering these races while Constitution Hill sits at home, which is, John Bond's this will be his 10th run since the Supreme. Constitution Hill has run 5 times. I don't understand that disparity.
Yeah, I think it's fair enough. Unibet Hurdle, obviously, that we thought we might get Constitution Hill here has obviously been ruled out, but one horse that's coming over for Willie Mullins is Lossiemouth, 10-11, obviously making her seasonal reappearance. Love Envoy, 9-4, you've got Rhubarb, First Street, Guards or Dreams. Lossiemouth, I like this, the fact that they're going this route with Lossiemouth, I'm surprised. But in terms of potentially seeing all three of the Mares Hurdle contenders in one weekend, I like the fact that they're deciding to start Lossiemouth here.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting to the point where Willie Mullins has to split them up late in the day, and that's why there's one that's going to go up to Doncaster, for instance, as well. He doesn't want to run them against. Stockton Perry Pass could come here, for instance, but I mean, don't want to run them all against each other. I would have thought they might have waited for the Quevega at home, but it's coming here, which is fine. Sheer odds on. You can't really complain about that too much. I mean, taking a chance on a reappearing horse, 4 from 5, on ratings, she's £4 inferior to I Love Envoy, for instance, and giving her £2 on the day. So yeah, on the figures, I wouldn't be steaming in. Interesting to see how close Rubu can get. Obviously wrong at the weights here, which kind of puts me off him a little bit. It's probably going to be a no bet race for me. But yes, it's just interesting to see Lossiemouth there. She makes the market, and I wouldn't be taking her on. I wouldn't be backing her either. So I'll just be kind of that's a total watching brief of a race. But it's an interesting one.
It is a very interesting watching brief. Let's move into the Cleve Hurdle. We've got Paisley Park 11-4, Dashel Drasher 3-1, Noble Yates 9-2, Champ and Botox Ass both at kind of 13-2. Paisley Park could do this. You've got obviously Noble Yates. I think is an interesting runner. Also interesting that Harry Cobden is lined up to ride.
Yeah, I mean, there's different things. I mean, John Joe O'Neill Jr.'s on Newbie Negra, for instance. So I mean, there's obviously maybe Harry Skelton's elsewhere, and Doncaster on things like that. You're going to maybe get a few funny jockey bookings more often than normal. Noble Yates wouldn't interest me here, though. I mean, it would be too slow and
I don't think he would.
over hurdles. I think it's kind of an act of desperation again to kind of take on these veterans that are still there all the time. And I think, again, I think Paisley Park just about sets the standard here and is a rightful favourite. And I would back him. He was unlucky against Cramble, where he probably hit the front too soon. He travelled too sweetly for his own good, and Cramble came back at him and beat him. And he didn't quite get the strong pace either. Aimed at. I think he's held his form really well, and I think he's the one to beat here, particularly at a favoured Cheltenham. We're up the hill, will really suit him. Dashel Drash will probably make it. Champ, I think, it's absolute shadow of his former self. The each way angle for me would be Botox Has again. If you take out the last run, he could come back here, and I think each way at 10s he's reasonable. So the bet angle for me, by a clear distance, would be Botox Has each way and Paisley Park outright.
Yeah, I do think Paisley Park will win this. I do think this is the right one. I don't think Noble Yates. I don't understand it. I think this is maybe just a prep for something else.
Yeah,
Talks
Grand National, isn't it?
each way, yeah, 100%. I think
Ticking over.
yeah, Paisley Park would probably just shade it for me, but I'm really intrigued by what we've got at Cheltenham this week. We've got races for all 4 championship races. We've got trials for all 4 championship races technically, so I'm looking forward to this. On to Doncaster, we do have some interesting races. 3 Grade 2s. Start with Rossington, obviously Jericho de Repine, 4-9. I think he will win this. I think this is the right place to go in terms of a bit of a test for the ground. I think 4-9 is probably a bit too short. It's probably just a watching brief. I think we will see an outright supreme favourite.
You'd have to, I mean, John Bond kind of did this, didn't he, in that similar race at Haydock when he was odds on. He was a bit workmanlike in doing so. This fella could do the same. Mark Walsh on board first time as well. He'll that suggests to me that he might have first dibs on which one of any of them in the Supreme for JP McManus, so including the Nick Henderson brigade if that's true. So be another different jockey for him, which is again that would be unusual in itself. All these 3 novice runs, different person board each time. That adds another kind of unusual layer to the Supreme thing. I think lump sum's probably probably the main danger here. But you'd expect Jericho the referee to win this. He's just about ahead on current figures anyway, and you'd expect, there's a lot more in the bonnet to offer here. Hopefully just kind of he shows another kind of chunk of his true reflection of his ability, and he might show enough to go back into clear favouritism for the Supreme.
We've got the Mayor's Hurdle at Doncaster as well. Yorkshire Rose. We do have two Willie Mullins contenders going for this. Ashrow Diamond's been declared 5-4. Gallimar So 2-1. Under Control, I think, is very interesting here at 4-1. It's good to see. Obviously, we're going to see Ashrow Diamond against Gallimar So. I think Ashrow Diamond has obviously got really good form in amongst the kind of male horses. I think that should be a different test. I think Gallimar So, though, out the between her and Lossiemouth, with a step up and trip, I would think Gallimar So will is at this moment in time going to handle it better. If that makes sense.
Yeah, both of them are over 2 miles here, so again, that'll be an unknown going into the Mayor's Hurdle. Gallimar So, I assume there'll be more to kind of come from her, and I think step up and trip should narrow the gap. The Lossiemouth, it's just whether it's going to be enough. This is probably going to be the riding arrangement as well on the day.
I would have thought
Patrick
so,
Mullins, Ashwood Diamond, Gallimar So, Danny Mullins, Lossiemouth, Paul Townend. Whatever happens, probably. And they're all kind of closely matched on raw figures. Gallimar So obviously had that eye-catching run in France as well in the close season, which is maybe narrow the gap in figures a little bit too much. Just giving away £3 to Ashwood Diamond, who's had a run. I can see why Ashwood Diamond's favourite for this on the day. Under Control's got a bit to find. Yeah, that's another race I might, like Lossiemouth, I might check it out of.
It's tough. It's great. It's a good race. We've got the River Dawn Novices Hurdle as well. Welcome to Cartridge 3-1. You've got Destroy the Evidence for Kim Bailey 7-2. I Love My Bay for Simon Crawford. Esprit de Poitiers and Kerry Hill. Obviously, interesting range for Sam Thomas. That's the one I really can't decide. Welcome to Cartridge has done it quite tough, which would suggest he could handle a race like this. I think Destroy the Evidence could be good for Kim Bailey as well. I think that's a very open race. I'm kind of undecided where to go here.
Well, this is an interesting race regards to battle. Like Shannon Bob's not here, but he was a horse that Destroy the Evidence lost out to by a length and a half at Cheltenham the other day. Well, Destroy the Evidence, he seemed to be the kind of typical, plenty of runs behind him, pretty solid. Can Welcome to Cartridge beat him more emphatically than Shannon Bob did? I think he probably can. I mean, I think he's a big kind of talking horse for Paul Nicholls. Though Harry Cobden is a bit of a negative, but if there's a class act to develop here, it probably is the favourite, the second favourite. Sets a reasonable kind of Hardy standard. So does I Love My Bay as well. He's kind of a solid kind of mid-120s operator. Destroy the Evidence is a solid 130 horse. We've seen High Class Hero as well put away a 130 horse working like fashion. We've seen Sharon Bob do it. If Welcome to Cartridge does it in style, all of a sudden you'd be looking at him and Captain Teague, top of the Albert Bartlett market, very, very seriously.
Yeah, you could. Move into Fairy House. We've got the Sol Arena Mayor's Novice Hurdle. We spoke about in Jade de Grugy. Just want to talk of the interesting jockey bookings here. You've got 4 Willie Mullins runners. Brian Hayes rides Jade de Grugy. Michael O'Sullivan, Sean O'Keefe and Adrian Heskin are on the other 3. You'd have to think Jade de Grugy will be odds on to win this and probably should.
Look to the West is dangerous. There's a good word about her in the Henry de Bromhead Yard. It's no penalty kick. Yes, Jade de Grugy's classy and is attracting interest, but you look to the West, could be a serious rival. The jockey bookings are, a little bit wild and up in the air because of Doncaster and Cheltenham being on, and Townend and Patrick Mullins and Danny Mullins going elsewhere. So, this is a lot. You'd expect. And a penny 100 actually has put up decent performances as well. So yeah, if Jade de Grugy's odds on, yeah, she should and she probably will win, but it's not easy.
We will move into our ante-post selections. Callum, we've got a bit of news in the Stairs Hurdle. Obviously, we saw that Felmy, the French raider, was ruled out. Obviously, brings Tia Hooper into kind of roughly about 3-1 joint favourite with its Rob Coor contender Irish Point. I don't think you really fancied Felmy anyway, but Tia Hooper's coming in.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of angling beforehand. He's going straight there. You wouldn't really need to worry about it. Pretty sure he will get there. Yeah, but you can't kind of take these things, for gospel. I mean, I've had quite a few kind of bad luck stories already this season. So I mean, if T who adds to the list, then it could well be. Yeah, French form is you either love it or you hate it. And I think a lot of them get inflated figures, and horses with background like that are kind of made to look better than they are. At least with LA Francais does have a Turner's entry. At least it's a bit of British background, what they're kind of going and they have kind of experience, and I would rather have them over, fences like that. Where that goes into the programme as well. Cheltenham's not really in the French programme. He was going to have a prep run the day before. It's just a real minor setback as well, and that's all it takes to knock these French horses out of sync completely, and they don't bother going. So yeah, he wouldn't have been for me anyway, but it is a layer of interest in a race that's been sadly removed for his loss.
Right, Calum, we've got a pick each this week. We'll start with you. Where are you going?
So in the Ultima, diving into the handicaps, it's a Paul Nicholls horse, Brave Kingdom.
Okay.
It's 16-1, non-runner, no bet, being an important proviso in this. He was due to run all the weekend at Ascot. That's why I was humming and hawing last week. I wanted to see if that was going to be on or not. He doesn't have an entry here. I thought he might go to Cheltenham, but they're all kind of 2.5 mile races, which is good for me because I think he's a stayer. He came from the Harry Whittington yard that weren't firing. He's had a big layoff. He's been unbeaten in 2 class handicap chases, class 3 events. He's very unexposed. He looked better the further he went up and trip. The last one at Newbury was 2 miles 7, where he looked like a 3 miler all day long. Paul Nicholls has given him entries in the Turners, not the Turners, the National Hunt Chase and the Brown Advisory. Now, he would do that token-wise for a horse rating 137. So they obviously think a good deal of him. Pre-season they did. It was just kind of getting him fit and getting him back on track. He's won 2 in a row in very good fashion. He's the same sire as Brave Man's Game now. I'm not saying he's Brave Man's Game chucked in a handicap here, but he would know the family quite well.
Yeah.
He's got Stay Away Faye, I would presume, for the 3 mile Novice Chase race. He doesn't really utilise the National Hunt Chase at all. 137 can just about get you in Ultimas now. Maybe you'd like him in the 140 mark. He might have a run maybe at a Chepstow February or something. He can run in these kind of small kind of class 3s maybe to get him up again. He could absolutely bolt up if he goes here, and I'd assume he does because Paul Nicholls is other horses. Ginny's Destiny, for instance, would probably be above him in the pecking order. He runs on Saturday, and he's got a kind of entry in those type of races as well. So I don't think, and Paul Nicholls likes to kind of quietly kind of lay one. He's been talking about a lot of horses. He's not really talking about this fella too much, and that's what he did when Tyne White looked set to win a Grand Annual when he laid one out. He's not kind of talked about, and he's left alone in the market. He's the same price non-runner no bet than he is in the open market, which again you're kind of getting that added security. You're not even price pinching at that point. And I don't think you need to play each way because I think he's potentially that well in that he's kind of boom or bust. He might not handle it, and it's a classy race. It tends to go to young, unexposed Brits. I mean, Corrick Rambler, Mon Big Genius ran really well in it. He was kind of hidden away in Class 3 company by John Joe O'Neill, and I think when you get like Inch House and Yuan wise to that would probably be the cover bets, like Mon Big Genius was to Corrick Rambler last year for me. So he's a one I've circled out for a handicap at 16s. I just think the fact he's got Grade 1 entries, the Brave Man's Game link slightly. He's wildly unexposed, which is what you need for this British handicap mark. He's going to get in. Paul Nicholls, good target trainer. Hopefully this is a target. If he's got one run as well in him that bumps him in to make sure he's in. 137 can get you in now in an Ultima. I don't think he'll go Kim Muir. I don't think he's kind of he doesn't really utilise amateurs and conditionals too much in races like that. So that's why I don't think he'll go Commune route or National Hunt Chase route either, and he's got Stay Away Faith for the Brown Advisory and Ginny's Destiny as well. So the fact he's got an entry suggests that he's classy, but I think that handicap mark can be, really, really used to full effect this season, and the Ultima might be one of them. So 16's no bet. It's a free hit at win, I would say.
Yep, absolutely. I really like the look of that. I'm going in the Brown Advisory Novices Chase. Not as exciting a price as yourself, Callum. I'm going for 5-1 on Fact to File. I just think he's the best horse in this kind of landscape. I think he's shown, obviously lost out to American Mike, where he's jumping, left a lot to be desired. Looked very good last day, obviously beating Manila Kakuna and Zana here. I just think, and as well, last year with the bumpers, I always thought that this is a horse for the future. They've obviously just completely overlooked hurdles with a view to fences. I think that's telling in itself. I think it's an open race. I think he's the one out of them all where you would look at and go, he's got something about him in terms of kind of a class angle. Can't have Grange Clear West. I'm not sure about Stay Away Fame. Grey Dawning, I think, obviously can clout one. I think out of the two, Stay Away Fame is probably the most dangerous to me, but I just think 5-1, I think he's big. I think we know where he's going to go. He's too good for a National Hunt Chase. He's better than Grange Clare West. I think he's put in better performances. I think he's easier to keep right. I think 5-1 still pretty good price on him. And I think we might even, he's going to go to the 2.5, you would imagine, at Leopardstown. He could really impress in that, especially if Gaelic Warrior seems to be going down the Irish Arkle route, which again don't get that at all. But if he's going there and he puts in a performance, it could be 7-4. So I think right now 5-1. I think it's a fair enough bet. I'm just going to get him in because I've been trying to get him in for a while. He's been bigger prices, but I think right now he's probably the most confident I am that he's going to win the Brown Advisory.
Yeah, it seems to be his nominated target, isn't it? I mean, after that big debrief the last day, I think they know what they've got. And Willie Mullins, he couldn't really kind of hide his excitement for that one. So yeah, I mean, it's a prohibitive price and a decent looking race as well. Leopardstown might be a bit sharp from Dublin Racing Festival. You wouldn't be surprised. Even I wouldn't have my ticket if he could beat at Leopardstown and he went Brown Advisory. It wouldn't entirely put me off either of them. So yeah, he'd been top of my list as well for that race.
What about Gaelic Warrior going Irish Arkle? What do you think of that? If that is true,
Is that definitely confirmed?
if it is, then what does it say about what they're planning?
It suggests to me that Willie Mullins doesn't know his top 2 miler, and it could be his top 2.5 miler. It would be his top 2 miler as well. Yeah, I just think he's shown a lot of pace, and I think he might be more tractable going hell for leather over 2 miles rather than kind of being a bit deliberate over 2 mile 5 furlongs at this point. It was only raced up to 2-3. Yeah, I thought it was like a 50-50 decision in the day. I just thought he would have more kind of runners in the 2 mile race, and that's why he might just go the 2 mile 5 furlong route instead. But him against Marine National would be quite the dust up.
Very good. Who would you side with?
You're often like even money both.
Yeah.
Marine National.
Yeah. I would be very,
just because of the right-handed thing.
Yeah.
Really. But I think in terms of ability, I think it'd be a brilliant kind of contest. I mean, that would be better than the novice chases at Cheltenham. That alone.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to next weekend, Dublin Racing Festival. We'll be back next week with a new episode. Obviously, we'll do a wee Dublin Racing Festival preview as well, so stay tuned for that. Callum, I want to thank you as always, mate. It's been a pleasure and good luck this weekend at Cheltenham.
Yep, thank you. You too.
Thanks very much, folks. We'll see you all soon.